And he got away with them, he did Chicago. She shot Dordain on a Shenanigans, a Gitchida, through Fire Society, gathering the Sacred Pipes, Sundance, Wounded Knee, 1973. My spirit name is Thunder Before the Storm. And I certainly like that a lot better than Clyde. I'm of the Anishinaabe Nation. And one of my brothers is here with me today. I'd like to ask him to come up front here and say a few words after what I have to say. Have you ever been surrounded by the police force?
Yep.
Have you ever had your house kicked in, your doors kicked in and arrested?
Twice.
Have you ever been told to get on the ground and they handcuffed you and maced you?
Yes.
Has that happened to you? Let's hear it. Has it happened to you?
Yes.
Now you know what it's like to be an Indian. Because you are the new Indians. You are the new Indians of today. You're the ones they're coming after now. We stood in a peace not many years ago, in 1973, for 71 days. We went there in a peaceful manner because we felt that absolutely nothing was being done by this government to live up to its treaty obligations to Indian people. We knew that if we didn't stand up, that all of our resources would be taken. All of our land would be taken. And then they would continue to massacre Indian people. 121 million Indian people have been erased from the face of the earth. That's Columbus lied here. That's the conquistadors lied here. Whole tribes that have been totally annihilated. And the American Indian movement stood up and formed right here in North Minneapolis in 1968 because we felt that absolutely nothing was being done to upgrade the conditions that Indian people are forced to live under here in their own country. And we knew that there's 75% of all the resources left in America in 1968 was still on Indian land. And we said we would never give up another inch. We would never give up another ounce. And just 3 years after we formed, we were on the top 10 hit list of J. Edgar Hoover, the FBI. And you know about him, I don't have to tell you about him. He'd go home at night and get on a big high chair with his nylons on. The big bulldog in the corner. And he said plans and ways on how he's going to get rid of the Kennedy brothers, Martin Luther King, the Black Panthers, Weather Underground, and oh yes, the National Organization of Women were on that hit list too. Don't you ever forget that. And for the first time in history, without congressional approval, presidential approval, J. Edgar Hoover tested his new plan to eliminate all forms of public dissent. All forms of public dissent like going on right here today. And he tested it. He tested it at Wounded Knee. Even before we went to Wounded Knee that night, the armored personnel carriers were already there. We found that out during the trial. Barns around farmers, all this redneck society that surrounds John Birch Society. They already had armored tanks in their barns just waiting for us to make a move. And we went to Wounded Knee. It was going to be a very peaceful demonstration like taking place here today. But by morning, I was awakened in a church basement, told to come outside and take a look. And I looked around with my binoculars and I found 24 armored personnel carriers surrounding us. Takes some years to go into Iraq. Takes some years to go into Grenada. Takes some years to go anywhere. They got to have public support. They got to have congressional support. They have to have presidential support. But then when he took the FBI one night to surround us, there's never been a surrounding like that ever took place anywhere in America. And it was only there with old deer rifles and handguns. that we decided to defend the women and children, because 80% of them in that encampment were women and children that refused to go. And as I was standing out there looking at the armored personnel carriers, 2 jets flew over. 2 jets flew so low the church almost fell over. The teepees, and that afternoon they dropped leaflets on us. This is part of history you're never told in the media. They dropped leaflets on us telling the women and children, the farmers, and the 7 churches that were in there, only 54 families occupying that land, would not leave any either. Before it was open, over 17 law enforcement agencies, plus the Goon Squad. You probably heard about the Goon Squad. The FBI furnished them with high-powered rifles and guns to Native people, as they always done, and turned them against Indian people. I know you have a lot of speakers here today, but we finally made a mistake again. We made another treaty. Said that we would put down our arms and we'd walk out of there and nobody would be arrested. I was the first to be. A 14-count indictment, facing over 300 years in prison plus 2 life sentences. Plus 2 life sentences. The rest of over 300 people, mostly women. The longest criminal trial to take place anywhere in history against Indian people. By the criminals who surround us right here today, that surround us at Wounded Knee. And when the tide started to turn our way, even the jury would come in the morning and smile at us, knowing that we were going to win that case. It finally went to jury 9.5 months. We proved governmental misconduct, illegal use of military forces, illegal search and seizure. It started to appear in the papers, believe it or not. It finally went to the jury, and the rest is history. A young lady, 46 years old, had a heart attack as a juror. And one of the most racist judges that was trying the case from South Dakota, even he had enough. He called us back into the courtroom. He wanted to bring the alternative jurors that were already excused back to fill that spot. And the federal government, the FBI, the Justice Department, knowing that they were going to lose that case, told the judge they wanted a mistrial. It's estimated they spent over $5 million on that trial here in St. Paul. And the judge had enough. And this is what he said. This is what can happen when people stand together. This can happen when you get your legal defense offense team together and lawyers and people that defend you in court. The judge said, the rivers of justice, I quote him, the rivers of justice have been muddied in my courtroom for 9.5 months. It's not the Indian people that are guilty here, it's the United States federal government. It's the Federal Bureau of Investigation. It's the Goon Squad. The Army Agency, the John Birch Society that slaughtered them for 71 days. You cannot use military force. Who do you think you are? He told the FBI that you can use military force without congressional or presidential approval. Who do you think you are that you can tap every phone in America, all the church leaders that stood up with us and Wounded Knee? He said the rivers of justice have been muddied in my courtroom for 9.5 months, and he banged his gavel on the table and dismissed all the charges. My brothers and sisters, we stand with you. We stand with you in total solidarity. Because what they're doing to you, they've been doing to us for over 500 years now. And we ask you to stand with us. We ask you to become a part of this American Indian movement. And the Palmer invested in me as the founder and national director of the American Indian movement. I dropped every single one of you. You stand with us to stand for justice, stand for peace, and put us, erase this ignorance that goes on in the classrooms every day, where absolutely nothing is taught by the original caretakers and the landlords of this country. I thank you very much. If my brother Bill is here, I'd like to ask him to say just a few words here. Bill.
One of the things that came out for here, some of you might have read a book by a local FBI agent in charge. His name was Joseph Trimbach. It said AIM, American Indian Mafia, he called us. But what he didn't say in the book is that the judge banned him from the courtroom because they found out that he got illegal wiretaps. Not only that, they used the Indian people who worked for the telephone company to install them. Those Indian people who supported us in Wounded Knee came forward at the trial and said they were the ones that installed the illegal wiretaps. So the judge banned the regional director of the FBI from the courtroom for lying to him all the time. At another occasion, the FBI was constantly acting as if they had been, should we say, trained, or if they had been given the advanced testimony of some of our witnesses. And so as William Kunstler was cross-examining one of the agents, he noticed that the door behind the judge, it was kind of cracked a little bit. So while he was questioning, he went and kind of eased towards that door, and all of a sudden he jerked it open, and two agents fell into the courtroom. They were all listening. Before they come on for their turn, they would listen to what's going on. These are the things that the FBI will do. They will invade your home. They will invade your privacy. They will coerce witnesses. They will fabricate evidence. They will use our tax dollars to basically fabricate any kind of charges they want. So unless we have people like yourselves to stand up for truth and justice, then the FBI wins. Because we know that they want to criminalize movements like this. That's the way that they get you, is to make you spend all your money in court. And so you don't have the money to organize against the real injustice. So you have to keep in mind also they will infiltrate even your own family if necessary. So you always have to be, this is not to create paranoia, but you have to be diligent. You have to know who you're organizing with. You have to know who your friends are. We exposed many agents who the FBI paid during the course of our trial. Indian people, non-Indian people. Some of them who were even worked in our security turned out to be agents. So they will stoop at nothing to limit or to degrade dissent. So I say to you that we stand in solidarity. These are human rights that we all have. We're born with these rights. Nobody gives us these rights. These are not in the Constitution. These are given to you by the Creator. Human rights. It's no longer just a battle of civil rights, because we know they can always tweak the law, right? But human rights is universal. It's inalienable. So remember that, and I thank you for your time, and we appreciate you standing together with us today.